Hey guys, this is Mr. H, Chapter 1, Lesson 6, Compare and Order Rational Numbers. So we're going to be using the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to. See, number 1 is negative 3 1/10, and you're comparing it to a negative 10/3. Remember, when you're comparing a decimal to a fraction, turn that fraction into a decimal. So you get 10 divided by 3. 3 goes in at 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. Bring down your 0. And hopefully you see a pattern happening here. That 3 will keep repeating. Remember, if a digit repeats in a number, you want to use the bar notation symbol to show that that digit keeps repeating. So you got negative 3 1/10, and now you made that negative 10/3 into a decimal, which turned into negative 3 3/10. So you can compare each digit, or you can put them on a number line. Putting negative numbers on a number line is like a really good skill to practice, because it makes you really think of which way the negative numbers go, right? And you see here that the negative 3 1/10 is further right. So if a number is furthest to the right, it's greater than the number to the left. You can also compare place values. So negative 1/10 is greater than a negative 3/10 because it's furthest to the right. It's getting closer to the positive numbers. Does that make sense? Yes, they're both negatives, but one's further to the right. That means it's greater than the other number. So negative 3 1/10 is greater than negative 3 3/10. Remember, as I'm working these out, pause the video to see if you can do it. And then follow me as I work it out and see if we both get the same answer. So you got a 2 2/3, and we're comparing it to 5/4. That 5/4 is a strange looking fraction, right? Hopefully you know that it's an improper fraction. And then you're turning it into a decimal. Let's turn both of these into decimals because decimals are easier to compare. So 5 divided by 4. 4 goes into 5 one time. Right? 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down your 0. You got 10. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 10 minus 8 is 2. Add another 0, bring it down. Now you got 20. How many 4s go into 20? 5. So 5/4 turns into 1 25/100. Hopefully by now you can see that you don't have to turn that 2/3 into a decimal, that 2 2/3, because you can just compare the ones place. Does that make sense? But let's go ahead and turn the 2/3 into a decimal. Again, you see a pattern here. The 6 repeats. So that 2 2/3 turns into 2 6/10. Just compare the ones place. You got a 2 and a 1. 2 is greater than 1. Right? Also practice saying the whole thing. 2 6/10 is greater than 1 25/100. That's good practice, knowing how to read decimals and inequality symbols. Again, remember to write down the problem. What I write, you write. And then pause the video before I work out the problem to see if you can do it. So number 3, you got 5/2, and we're comparing it to 1 1/2. So let's start off by turning that improper fraction into what might be a mixed number or a decimal. 5 divided by 2. 2 goes into 5 2 times, which is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. And I stopped and I made that improper fraction into a mixed number. So you get 2.5. And you compare it to 1.5. And just compare the ones place. 2 is greater than 1, so 2.5 is greater than 1.5. Now you got a -4 and 25/100ths, and we're comparing it to a -4 and 22/100ths. These are both decimals, so just compare the place value, each digit in each place value. You got a -4 in the ones place, can't compare those. You got a -2 and a -2 in the tenths place, so put a check on top of both of those because you can't compare those. Now you got a -5 in the hundredths place and a -2 in the hundredths place. Then -5 is further left, then -2 is further right. So -4 and 25/100ths is less than a -4 and 22/100ths. Study, study. I believe in you guys. Practice. See you next time.